The story takes place on May 19th, 2025 in a dark, abandoned building. Inside, a tied-up guy desperately asks what the soldier plans to do with him. Our protagonist looks down at the panicking man as the gun is pointed right in his face. In a swift, violent move, the protagonist strikes without a moment's hesitation. He then uses the gun to smash the prisoner's hand in a single blow. The hostage starts screaming in agony over his crushed hand. But our protagonist just watches him with a look of contempt and irritation. The protagonist's name is Jiang Chan, and he calls the hostage a pathetic loser. Jiang threatens him, saying he'll talk eventually, so he might as well confess now, but a colleague cuts him off. His partner tells the captain to back off, because this level of interrogation is against the rules. Furious, Jiang Chan yells that he doesn't give a damn about the rules and asks if his brothers died for nothing. He declares that the scumbag they're looking for is in this building and that he's going to end him today. Then, the protagonist grabs the hostage by the hair, demanding the password for the top floor in exchange for a quick exit. The prisoner just weeps in silence, not saying a single word about the password. Moments later, the protagonist and the soldier arrive at a massive door on the upper floor. As they approach the door, Jiang Chan's partner types in the password they managed to get. Seeing that the panel was busted, Captain Jiang then tells his partner to cover him. With one powerful kick, the protagonist demolishes the door with zero difficulty. Inside the room, a man in a white suit greets him, saying he's finally arrived. The blonde man then calmly says that Captain Jiang kept him waiting for a long time. With a mocking smirk, Jiang Chan says it looks like young Master Chen was eager to see him. Jiang gets furious, a red aura flaring around him, and asks if the guy has a wish to go to sleep. He then says he's going to catch him with his own 2 hands and feed him to the dogs. But Master Chen doesn't seem the least bit impressed by the soldier's threat. He starts laughing and, with a smug grin, asks if Jiang really thinks he's caught him already. Jiang Chan then yells, asking what he's laughing at, and says that backup is on the way. The blonde man looks at him seriously and calmly says that the captain is mistaken. Then he states with absolute certainty that there won't be any backup. At that moment, a gun is pointed at the back of our protagonist's head, leaving him in shock. The one holding the gun is his own partner, who apologizes to him. The blonde man scoffs, saying Jiang is all muscle and no brain, and that in his next life, he'll have plenty of time to think. The captain glares at his ex-partner, who now holds him by the shoulder with a look of betrayal. With eyes red with pure rage, he curses the traitor, calling him a scumbag. In a swift move, he tries to grab the traitor's gun, but the soldier stops him. Suddenly, a shot rings out, leaving the captain completely paralyzed with shock. As he falls to the ground, he thinks that the whole thing was a huge trap from the very beginning. He realizes the ambush was set up to wipe out the entire Dragon Force team. Jiang bitterly regrets not having taken care of that informant sooner. He spent his life fighting evil, but never saw that the enemy was right by his side. Lying on the floor, barely hanging on, the soldier wishes he could do it all over again. He swears that if he could be reborn, he would take them all down and change his fate. But our guy thinks that's impossible, as if he could just get a do-over. Suddenly, a mysterious voice calls him classmate and asks if he's okay. A boy with glasses looks at him with concern while the protagonist is still dazed. As he opens his eyes, he's shocked to find himself in the body of a young student. The classmate gets defensive, saying he's not a pervert and just thought it was weird that he was standing there spaced out. Still confused, Jiang Chan asks if he's a student, and the boy confirms, not understanding the question. Our hero grabs him, yelling that this is a idiot, but the kid says they're at a school. The boy replies that it's April 13th, 2015, and other students think he's lost his mind. The students back away, calling him a weirdo, and the protagonist is stunned by the date. He leans against the sink, trying to process the information that he's traveled back in time. Looking at his reflection in the mirror, he finally understands that he has, somehow, been reborn. Horrified to realize he's been sent 10 years into the past. With a slap to his own face, he realizes he isn't dreaming. With a sinister grin, he realizes this is his new reality. Since he's alive, he swears that now his enemies are the ones who will meet a tragic end. Just then, 3 girls walk by in the hallway, talking about some variety show. The one with purple hair notices our guy looking in their direction and gets suspicious. They confront him, calling him a perv, and clarify that they weren't complimenting him. The girls think he's gross for just standing there with a nosebleed and head off to the showers. Watching the girls leave, our protagonist remembers that today is April 13th. He then recalls a terrible scene with a slipper and a bowl on the floor. In his memory, the purple-haired girl was lying lifeless on the bathroom floor. With a sinister Sung Jin Woo-style glare, he decides to rewrite his life, starting from this very moment. He then overhears 2 girls in towels talking about a creep at the school gate. The protagonist knocks on the locker room door, getting their attention. Jiang asks if he can come in for a second to get some water. He explains that the water is out in the classroom building and shows them his empty bottle. The girls complain about the school and warn him not to look around. While filling his bottle, the soldier starts putting his plan into action. He remembers that this was the exact place where the tragedy happened in the past. So he decides to check the time to be sure of something very important. Red 1:15, and he thinks to himself that cowardice creates coincidences. Suddenly, a girl runs out screaming that there's a peeping Tom in the showers. Hearing this, the protagonist realizes that everything is happening just as he remembered. Seeing the guy running, the protagonist realizes the day of the tragedy has finally arrived. He remembers that the clock read exactly 1:15 in the afternoon at that moment. With his eyes glowing red, he prepares to face the situation head-on. This is the moment that once decided his fate, and now, he's going to change everything. A flashback shows April 12, 2015, when a crime occurred at the school. On that day, a creep broke into the locker room, and when he was spotted, he panicked and fled. The protagonist recalls that he had the chance to prevent the tragedy that followed. But the desperate criminal was willing to do anything to get away. His past self was completely frozen and couldn't react. All he felt was an overwhelming fear that left him cowering on the floor, unable to act. With a face full of terror, he didn't have the courage to interfere. The intruder then ran into the bathroom and attacked a girl who was taking a shower. The victim transferred out of the school and was never seen again, while everyone else forgot about the case. But it haunted him, and in the end, he dropped out of school to join the army. After joining the special forces, he became a completely ruthless soldier. He was warned multiple times for breaking discipline in the army. In his heart never completely faded. He couldn't understand how horrible people could just go on with their lives after ruining others. Over time, he became more and more merciless with his enemies. Because of this, the protagonist became known as the fearsome lone wolf. Back in the present, the girl screamed not to let the intruder get away. Our hero thinks that he should be going after Chen Shao, but he had other priorities. The criminal then threatens everyone with a knife, telling them to stay back. But first, the protagonist wants to correct some regrets from his past life. He believes the best way to deal with scum is with violence. Jiang is determined, telling himself that this time, the guy won't succeed. Then, our hero yells for everyone to get out of the way and charges forward without a second's hesitation. He throws the water bottle at the criminal, shattering it and splashing water everywhere. The intruder gets hurt by the water bottle and yells, asking who was responsible. But before he can react, the thug is completely confused by what just happened. The criminal sees the reflection of the approaching protagonist in his eye. Before he could even react, our hero leaps into the air for a powerful attack. With a devastating kick, he mercilessly nails the thug right in the head. The impact is so strong that the man is thrown violently against the wall. Even on the ground, the criminal whimpers in pain but still holds his knife tightly. Jiang is surprised to see the guy is still conscious after a hit like that. He then loosens his tie and thinks that his current body really needs more training. The criminal gets up, calling him a son of a gun. In a fit of rage, he raises the knife and screams that he's going to end our hero. But the protagonist easily dodges the blow, leaving the attacker completely stunned. He quickly grabs the man's wrist, stopping the blade's attack. He lands a precise kick on the thug's arm to disarm him. He doesn't stop, continuing to unleash a series of fast and brutal blows. The intruder's face is a bruised mess, and he's already seeing his life flash before his eyes. Finally, the criminal falls to the floor, completely knocked out by the beating he took. The protagonist watches the man on the ground as the thug groans in pain. Cold stare, he shows zero compassion for the criminal. With pure fury in his eyes, he yells, "You scumbag," and prepares for another attack. Without hesitation, he starts punching the downed intruder with relentless and continuous violence. The man's face is hit by a sequence of brutal blows with no chance to defend. Jiang then grabs the guy by the hair with an expression of disgust and contempt. He says that no matter how much time passes, seeing that face still makes him sick. At that moment, a female voice calls him classmate, interrupting his rage. The protagonist slowly turns toward the girl who called him. The young woman with purple hair warns him that if he keeps hitting him, he's going to send the guy to the forever box. Looking at her, our protagonist finally remembers who she is and falls silent. Even after he acted like a hero, the girl asks him to stop staring at her like that. She then says with a blushing face that the whole situation is kind of embarrassing. The protagonist observes her for a moment, processing everything that just happened. All of a sudden, the cops roll up to the scene, sirens blaring, to investigate. The prisoner asks to use the bathroom, but one of the cops tells him to shut it. Then an older officer approaches with our hero and praises his takedown technique. With that, he asks if the young man has had any kind of special training. The MC replies that he learned everything from watching flashy moves on TV. But the cop is skeptical, saying not even beat cops could learn something like that just from TV. So, to test him, the officer preps for a quick hand movement. He tries to catch our hero off guard and asks if the TV taught him this too. However, the MC reacts, stopping the man's attack with just a look. In that moment, his eyes glow an intense red, revealing his ability. He then informs the officer that it's not exactly proper procedure to choke a civilian like that. The cop is stunned by the MC's killer aura and wonders just who this kid is. Suddenly, a woman's hand grabs the officer's arm to stop him. It's the woman from before, who sticks up for our hero and says she can testify on his behalf. Even so, she looks at the MC and says he really didn't need to rough the guy up that badly. Our hero is speechless for a moment, just processing. Hours later, now at night, our hero finally arrives at his old apartment building. He walks up the stairs and calmly opens the door to his apartment. Inside, he finds his mother with her back to him and tells her he's home. But the woman turns around with an angry expression, complaining that he's late. She continues her lecture, saying he's getting worse and worse, and tells him to go wash his hands. With his eyes welling up, the MC calls out to her in a low, emotional tone. Then, without a second thought, he hugs her from behind, completely surprising her. His mom turns around, worried, and asks if someone gave him trouble on the street. After that, his mom prepared a big dinner for them. Sitting at the table, the woman says her son seems off and asks if he's okay. She wonders if it's because of pressure from school, but he tells her everything's fine. Our hero promises he'll listen to her from now on, but she tells him to stop with the nonsense. With a smile, she says she just wants him to finish school and get a good job. Our hero then thinks that this was how she used to lecture him when she was alive. Looking at the moon through the window, our hero lets out a long, thoughtful sigh. Lying in bed, he misses the days when he didn't have to worry. The MC reflects that for ordinary people, simple happiness demands everything from them. Meanwhile, for evil people, it's all too easy to destroy that same happiness. Clenching his fist, he decides he's going to change the world with this second chance. Looking at a family photo, he swears he won't leave behind any regrets. Morning, the MC heads to school like any other day. But right at the entrance, an old man greets him, calling him a little rascal. Along the way, a few girls comment on how handsome he is. Even a teacher shows up, saying the principal is going to give him an award. The young man is surprised, as he didn't expect saving someone would cause such a commotion. He wonders if his classroom will have the same vibe. And as he enters the room, everyone points at him, talking about the door-kicking incident. One of his friends comes over and says his moves yesterday were insane. Our hero then offers to teach him, and the boy excitedly calls him Master. In the middle of all the excitement, a blonde kid taps his pen on his desk, annoyed. He complains that it was just a little fight and doesn't get why our hero is getting such a big head. Angrily, the guy slams his hand on the MC's desk to get his attention. Our hero then faces him and asks what the class representative wants with him. Yang says he was the only one who didn't turn in the English homework. Sarcastically, the MC pulls out his homework and says that must make him special. He then offers the assignment to Yang, ironically calling him Master. But in a swift move, the class rep rips the MC's homework to shreds. With a victorious smirk, Yang states that the assignment doesn't count anymore. He then orders our hero to redo the English homework right then and there. The pieces of the paper are scattered across the desk as everyone watches. Our hero's friend gets ticked off and asks why Yang ripped up his homework. At that point, a big bruiser shows up and says he should redo it 10 times. The bald friend doesn't back down and asks if they're looking for a fight. The big guy tells the kid to shut his mouth, calling him a monkey and scaring him. Our hero then stands up and says he'll redo the assignment to calm his friend down. But with his red eyes, he glares at the class rep and demands an apology. Yang is taken aback by our hero's audacity and asks why he should have to apologize. MC replies that it's because of his despicable attitude. Speechless, the class rep becomes furious at the response. Then the bruiser lunges at him, yelling to watch his mouth. However, the young hero easily dodges the punch, leaving the big guy surprised. Furious, the attacker complains that he's way too good at dodging. Just then, a girl with pink hair appears at the classroom door, unaware of the fight. The bruiser yells that this time he won't get away, and the girl gets startled. He rushes in to throw another punch, but the girl is right in the way. Seeing the danger, the MC's expression turns serious and worried. He quickly dashing toward the girl. Our hero pulls his classmate out of the path of the punch. Right after, he asks if she's okay, and the girl says it was nothing serious. The girl replies that it's just a scratch, but she's clearly shaken up. With his eyes glowing red, our hero glares at the attackers and says they've gone too far. He then jumps onto the bruiser's back and gets him in an arm lock. With a swift movement, the MC twists the bully's arm with great force. The big guy screams in pain, clutching his hand as our hero stares him down coldly. Seeing this, the class rep grabs a chair and charges at our hero in a rage. But the MC moves just as quickly against him. Yang has no time to react and gets grabbed by the neck. Our hero throws him hard against the window. Our hero then winds up a punch with all his might. But before the punch could land, a teacher walks in and complains that our hero has taken this fight way too far. He accuses the hero of enjoying hitting other people. The red-haired girl tries to defend the MC, saying the other guy started it. The teacher tells her to be quiet and orders our hero to follow him to his office. So, he's taken to the office of the school's dean of discipline. In the dean's office, the man scolds him for fighting directly with Yang Tianli. Our hero then questions if he should have just taken the beating quietly since the other guy started it. The dean warns him that Yang's father is powerful, and not even the principal dares to offend him. He says that young people are hot-headed, but sometimes you just have to suck it up. The man then sends him away and tells him to behave from now on. Once outside, MC reflects on the words, "suck it up," as he walks. Looking up at the sky, he continues to ponder the conversation he just had. The MC reflects that even if he wants peace, trouble just keeps finding him. Back in the classroom, his friends celebrate his arrival with excitement. They call him a hero and say what he did to the bullies was awesome. At that moment, the red-haired girl approaches with a drink. She thanks him for helping her and says she's glad he's okay. Hiding by the door, the bruiser watches with a look of pure rage. He punches the wall, furious that the MC stole the spotlight once again. The big guy then suggests they get 10 guys together to jump our hero after school. The class rep says that won't be necessary, admitting he was too impulsive before. He claims that only inferior beings admire brute force, leaving his friend confused. The blonde kid explains that the world is run by rules, and those who know how to use them rule. With a smile, he states that those people become the rulers of everything. Just then, the blonde kid takes out his phone and calls a man named Uncle Zhao. With an air of superiority, he says he has a question for him. Then he asks what the best way is to get someone sent to juvie. Back in the classroom, our boy watches his classmate try to imitate his fighting moves. With that, the kid lets out a battle cry while practicing his moves in the middle of the room. He then asks the master what he thought of his kick, but the MC warns him not to overdo it. Just then, another student approaches someone and gets their attention. The MC and his friend then look towards the classroom door, surprised by the unexpected visitor. The purple-haired girl he saved shows up and asks if Jiang Shan is in this class. Everyone is stunned by her beauty, wondering how the new guy got a chance with the school's knockout. Our hero's friend then nudges him and tells him to get a move on, since she's obviously there for him. Out in the hallway, the girl brings up what happened and asks if he's free tonight. She then hands him a business card and explains that her father wants to thank him personally. The card reads Lin Zhenbang Eastern Theater Command, a specific military unit. Upon reading the name, our protagonist is completely shocked, as he recognizes the man immediately. In his memories, he remembers the man as the youngest person to ever become a major general. Back in the present, he takes the card and says that taking out the trash is just his duty. Finally, he asks her to tell the commander that there's no need to worry about it. Returning to class 15, our hero walks into the room and heads to his seat. At this, his friend asks what Lin Shi wanted, and he jokes that her dad wants them to get married. But Yang Tianli interrupts, saying the principal wants to see the main character in his office right now. The class representative then flashes a sly grin, pleased that his plan is working. Arriving at the principal's office, our young man is immediately met by the fuming man. The older man then yells that if Han Chong doesn't pull through, the kid will be held responsible. However, the MC glances at the report and, with a smirk, notices the ink on the paper is barely dry. Annoyed, the principal slams his hand on the desk and questions if he's doubting the hospital's report. Our guy thinks to himself that he never even touched the brute's head, and that this is just one of Yang's tricks. The man then yells at him to say something, since the report is right there in front of him. With an intimidating glare, the young man leans in and suggests a little visit to the hospital. He stares down the principal and warns him not to get involved, questioning just how powerful Yang's father really is. The principal is shocked and points at the boy, wondering how he's so sharp. At that moment, the office door is thrown open with great force, interrupting their conversation. Police officers then enter and take our hero away as a suspect in an intentional assault. As he's being led away by the fake cops, the protagonist sees Yang Tianli with a victorious smirk. The class representative then taunts him, asking if he can really afford to pick this fight. But our young man just smiles back and tells him not to get ahead of himself, because the show has just begun. Over in the interrogation room, one of the men yells that Han Chong suffered 3 fractured ribs. He then throws the medical report on the table and demands that our young hero confess to the crime now. The fake cop continues the charade and asks why he attacked his classmate so violently. Calmly, MC suggests they check the transfer records on Han Chong's phone. With a steely gaze, he warns them that he won't say another word until his lawyer arrives. Next, the boy asks if the surveillance camera is on, since they don't even have a warrant. He then points out several procedural errors, calling their interrogation methods amateurish. The men are stunned, wondering how this kid knows so much about police procedures. So, our young man demands they call their superior, someone who at least knows the rules. Just then, Police Chief Dong Li enters the room, and the fake cops greet him. The chief then tells the young man that the rules don't apply to everyone. Finally, he slides a confession over and tells the kid to sign it, because he messed with the wrong person. The police chief offers to reduce his sentence by 3 years, but the young man remains silent. With a smirk, the boy says he's trying awfully hard to please Yang Tianli's father. He then guesses that the man is just a deputy chief, desperate to climb the corporate ladder. The MC warns him that those who rise through dirty means are destined for a hard fall. Furious, the man yells at him to shut his mouth immediately. He then grabs him by the collar and threatens him, saying he's about to take action. But one of the goons comes in, announcing that the chief has a call from command headquarters. The man turns pale and lets go of the MC, shocked by the unexpected call from HQ. Our hero then tells him to go ahead and answer the call, saying that he can wait. The deputy chief wonders why the command would be calling now and suspects it has to do with the boy. As the man walks over to get the phone, the MC taunts him, asking if he doesn't want to answer it. On the other end of the line, a voice orders him to release the boy immediately, stating that it's an order. The corrupt cop tries to argue about procedures but seems to be terrified. At that moment, the door is kicked down, and two soldiers storm into the interrogation room. Officer Yi Changshan walks in, complaining about bureaucrats, and introduces himself as Lin's subordinate. The frightened deputy chief says they can't just barge in like that, and that it's against procedure. With that, Officer He gets annoyed and complains that all the man talks about is procedure. He then points a gun right in the corrupt cop's face and says that this is his procedure. Inside the interrogation room, the situation unfolds with the new arrivals. The deputy chief tries to smooth things over, telling Officer He that the MC is fine and that nothing happened. But the soldier glares at him and asks why they arrested someone from the Lin family, and the man stutters. Our young hero then thinks with a smile that although they were a little late, they arrived just in time. In a flashback, we see the protagonist handing the business card to his friend in the classroom. He then asks his classmate to call that number in case he didn't return after a while. Back in the present, he reflects that if he hadn't been cautious, Yang Tianli would have gotten the best of him. The officer hands over the paperwork and orders the cop to sign it so the boy can be released. While signing, the man thinks that the soldier is a lunatic for pulling a gun inside a police station. He hands over the papers, thinking that the Yang family has messed with the powerful Lin family. The cop then realizes that with military backing, the young man is no ordinary person. In the car, the protagonist asks the officer if pulling out his gun wasn't a violation of discipline. Officer He reveals that the gun wasn't even loaded and says that nobody's going to find out. He then turns to our young man and thanks him for saving the commander's daughter. The MC shakes his hand and says that Uncle Lin also saved him once, so now they're even. The soldier then mentions he's heard the boy is skilled and is curious to see for himself. With that, the handshake gets tighter as the officer begins to test the young man's strength. Our hero then realizes the man is clearly trying to test his skills right there. Suddenly, the officer throws a quick punch at the MC, saying it was just curiosity. But he dodges it with ease and the soldier praises his quick reflexes. He then attacks as well and the officer narrowly dodges, laughing at the situation. The fight continues in the back seat, and the driver gets tense watching the scene in the rearview mirror. Suddenly, the driver looks ahead with wide eyes and spots a problem. He warns them that there's a military patrol just ahead, and the two brawlers stop. The car passes by the patrol smoothly while the soldier at the wheel nods to the guard. The officer is relieved they didn't get caught, but then remembers he's not the one filing the report. Finally, they arrive at their destination, stopping in front of a plain-looking building. Officer He guides him inside the building, saying the commander is waiting upstairs. With that, our young man heads up the stairs towards his meeting with Lin Si's father. Outside, Officer He complains about the pain in his shoulder and the MC's insane combat skills. The protagonist continues on his way, calmly climbing the steps. Upon entering the room, he finds Lin Shi's father with his back turned and greets him, calling him Uncle Lin. The man turns around and introduces himself, saying he finally gets to meet him in person. The commander then offers our young man some tea as a sign of gratitude. Sitting at the table, the MC thanks him, but the soldier says he's the one who should be thanking him. With a serious look, the commander says that if it weren't for him, he would have lost his only daughter. Our young man smiles and replies that upholding justice is every citizen's duty. The commander is impressed by the young man's courage and praises his noble attitude. He then places a folder marked Top Secret on the table and asks the boy to take a look. As the MC reads the document, the soldier remarks that Deputy Chief Yang has been getting pretty bold. Inside the folder are pictures of Yang and his father, and the man begins to talk about pruning trees. He then concludes that a tree needs to be pruned regularly, suggesting action against the Yangs. The commander says the young man was wronged, but that the young duo won't be getting away with it for much longer. The MC remembers something very important that happened in his past life. He then recalls that in his previous life, it was around this time that Yang Tianli's father was arrested. Back then, 6 million in bribe money disappeared and was only found in 2024. Back in the present, the soldier asks the MC what he's thinking about at that moment. Our hero then breaks into a cunning smile, already forming a plan for his revenge. So he asks, how would Deputy Chief Yang react if his house were suddenly robbed? The alarm clock blares at 3 a.m., and our boy gets ready for his new mission revenge. He quickly shuts off the alarm to keep things quiet and get his plan started. He checks his watch to make sure everything is running on schedule. Then, he grabs a pre-packed backpack with everything he'll need for his mission. With a confident smirk, he puts on his cap and gets ready to execute his plan. He tiptoes out of the room while his mom sleeps peacefully on the living room couch. The woman dreams about her son and the Yangs, muttering that if he keeps picking fights, he's gonna get himself seriously hurt. Our protagonist promises he'll be back soon and closes the door carefully, trying not to wake his mother. A short while later, he arrives at his destination, the luxurious Yang family mansion. Looking up, he notices the place is crawling with security cameras everywhere. Lurking in the shadows, he thinks to himself, classic crooked official move, just like Yang's dad. After scouting the area, our young man finds a blind spot with a perfect, clear view for his entry. Our hero then sets a countdown on his watch to sink his break in. As soon as the timer hits 0, he steps onto the wall and launches himself over it in a flash. In one swift move, he clears the wall and lands silently in the bushes on the other side. Crouching in the bushes, he breathes a sigh of relief for getting in unnoticed. He then remembers that in his past life, the news said the money was hidden in a garden decoration. Looking around, he wonders which decoration could possibly be big enough to hide that much cash. Then, he spots a fountain in the middle of the courtyard and starts to suspect it's the hiding spot. With a keen eye, he analyzes the fountain's structure, looking for anything out of the ordinary. He gets closer and finds it strange that the fountain is running in the middle of the night, just wasting electricity. Suddenly, our young man realizes something important and has an epiphany about where the money is. Meanwhile, a security guard yawns out of boredom during his nightly patrol under the full moon. The guard grumbles that nobody would be crazy enough to rob the deputy chief's house, and that this is all a waste of time. Just then, he hears a strange noise and suspiciously stops his rounds. The man yells out, "Who's there?" while scanning the area with his flashlight. To his relief, he sees only a white cat meowing peacefully by the edge of the fountain. The security guard relaxes, thinking it was just a cat, and turns to continue his patrol. The feline then looks back and meows again. Turns out, the cat was attacking our protagonist, who emerged from inside the fountain soaking wet. Inside the fountain, he finds the money and understands why it was never confiscated before. But it's $6 million, and his backpack isn't nearly big enough to carry it all. Then he spots a wheelbarrow nearby and gets the idea to use it to haul the cash. Our young man puts the stacks of bills into a large plastic bag and tosses it into the wheelbarrow. Pushing the wheelbarrow, he's already thinking about how to use the money, like buying a house or investing. He's overjoyed as he walks down the street, but a car suddenly appears, speeding towards him. All of a sudden, the vehicle screeches to a halt right in front of him, nearly running him over. A drunk Yang Tianli gets out, wishing our protagonist a nice stay in jail. The bully then kicks the bag of money, calling it trash and saying it's right where it belongs. But as he kicks it, he realizes it doesn't feel like trash and gets confused. Looking closer, the boy is shocked to see the bag is full of cash. He wonders if he's had too much to drink as our hero sneaks up behind him. With a precise chop to the back of the neck, our protagonist knocks the rich kid out cold, and he hits the ground instantly. Our MC says that before calling someone trash, he should take a good look in the mirror. With the bully on the ground, our protagonist reflects that driving drunk without a license is the perfect example of a spoiled brat. Angrily, he kicks the fallen bully and says his mom was right about the father and son. At that moment, he pulls out a large knife he had stored in his backpack. With the weapon in hand, he stares down at the unconscious rich kid with a serious look. He flashes a wicked grin and says the kid isn't worth the trouble, but he'll leave him a little parting gift. Our young man then grabs the bully's hair, preparing for his plan. With a swift motion, he starts hacking away at the boy's hair, sending strands flying through the air. After he's done, he stands up and remarks that he didn't expect this kind of work to be so tiring. The bully's hair is now a complete hack job. With a smile, he hopes the class president enjoys the surprise when he wakes up. Back in his apartment the next morning, the day seems to be starting like any other. His mom bursts into the room, yelling for him to wake up, but he just begs for 5 more minutes. She then warns him that if he's late, he'll miss breakfast, and adds that she's going to the temple to pray. Then she mentions seeing some weird things like the knife with hair on it and puddles of water on the floor. Just listens exhausted as his mom asks if he went sleepwalking again. At the Yang family mansion, someone is happily humming as they walk down the street. The mansion's security guard is heading home, happy that his shift is over. Suddenly, he stops in his tracks, shocked by an unexpected sight in the middle of the street. He finds the rich kid on the ground and angrily kicks him, telling him to wake up. The bully wakes up furious and asks who dares to speak to him like that. The guard is terrified when he recognizes it's the young Master Yang. The blonde kid complains about his headache and yells at the man for being so loud this early. As he runs a hand through his hair, he feels something strange and spiky. His chopped up hair falls out, and he goes completely silent, utterly shocked. With his teeth clenched in rage, he wonders who was responsible. He then screams that he's going to have his father destroy whoever did this to him. The guard mutters that if they can send one to prison, they can just as easily send a second. The blonde kid runs home, screaming that his father needs to punish whoever wronged him. Calling for his dad, he stops dead in his tracks when he sees a shocking scene at his front door. The bully turns pale, unable to believe what's happening right in front of him. He sees his father being escorted away by 2 officers. The boy screams in desperation and tries to stop the officers from taking his father away. Then, one of the agents asks if he's Yang Tianli, and the bully confirms it angrily. The officer explains that he's from the anti-corruption department and that his father is a suspect in major violations. At this, the rich kid is completely frozen, unable to process what's happening. His father then turns and tells his son that this time, not even he can help him. With tears in his eyes, the boy watches his father say goodbye and tell him to take care of himself. The bully screams as he watches his father being taken away. The next day at school, a friend tries to wake up our young man who's sleeping at his desk. The friend then breaks the news about Yang's father being arrested. The friend is confused by our protagonist's lack of surprise and asks him why. Our young man says that what goes around comes around and tells his friend to be quiet. His classmate asks why he's so tired and mentions that he smells a little damp. Our hero lies, saying he went fishing in the river and caught over 200 pounds of fish. A flashback shows that in his past life, a huge political storm swept through the city. And our protagonist knows this event was the beginning of a major crisis for the entire region. Watching the news, our young man realizes that Yang's father's arrest happened earlier this time. He then reflects that his rebirth might have slightly altered the original timeline. Putting that aside for now, he focuses on how to spend the 6 million he just scored. His main goal is revenge, but he knows this amount isn't enough to take on Chen. So, he thinks about making some investments to grow his capital and fund his plan. The first idea that comes to mind is buying a building and renting it out for a steady income. He figures he's been poor for too long, and becoming a landlord is the most reliable option. As he's walking through an alley, he laments not having studied more in his past life. Suddenly, he sees a group of thugs ganging up on someone and complains about the terrible security in the neighborhood. Since it's the shortest route, he decides to just cross his arms and wait for the fight to end. The attackers are yelling at the victim, while the man on the ground begs them to stop, saying he has no money. The man cowers on the ground, protecting his head and continuing to plead for his life. Our protagonist then recognizes the victim and thinks it's pathetic that a school principal is getting beaten up like this. One of the thugs grabs a bat and prepares to deliver the final blow to the man on the ground. Without hesitation, the thug swings the bat with all his might, making the man scream in pain. The principal feels a wave of pain after being brutally hit by the attacker's bat. The powerful impact knocks him out, and he collapses, completely motionless on the alley floor. The delinquents then gather around the man and wonder if he's still breathing. One of the attackers decides to check and raises the bat to strike again. But at that exact moment, a sudden noise grabs everyone's attention. The attacker turns around and is surprised to see our young man standing right in front of him. Without a second thought, our MC leaps forward and lands a powerful kick on the delinquent. The blow is so strong that the attacker is sent flying, landing unconscious on the ground. The others are stunned by the scene, wondering where this kid came from. The principal then starts to come to and looks up at his savior with great difficulty. He's shocked when he recognizes our MC yelling out, "You're Zhang Shan." Our protagonist smirks and gives him a sarcastic greeting, asking what he's doing here. The thugs are writhing on the ground, screaming in pain, while our hero and the director survey the chaotic scene around them. With some difficulty, the director recognizes our guy and asks, surprised, what the heck he's doing in an alley like this. Our hero just smiles and says he was about to ask the same thing, questioning how a director ended up in a mess like this. The director gets all flustered and cooks up a story about being on a secret inspection to see how things were going. Our guy helps him up and pokes fun at his secret job, pointing out his complete lack of a danger sense. He then offers the MC a bodyguard job, but he says he has something else to discuss. The director invites him to his car to talk and praises his potential as they walk together. Reaching his car, the director complains that those punks really don't know when to quit. Once inside the vehicle, he wipes away his sweat and grumbles that impulsive teenagers don't think about the consequences. The protagonist then asks if he's trying to get a rise out of him, and it dawns on the director that our guy is a teenager too. So he quickly apologizes, saying our hero is different, and thanks him for saving his skin today. The MC gets serious and says the old district security needs a major overhaul and fast. The director agrees that it needs to be dealt with soon, but asks with a nervous smile about Officer Lin. Our hero says that Uncle Lin is concerned about security and that the director needs some real achievements to climb the ladder. The director is confused by his words. The protagonist just tells him to keep his eyes on the road. The protagonist then reveals he has a way to get rich, but he's looking for a trustworthy partner. The director is suspicious of the offer and asks what kind of get-rich-quick scheme this is. The MC then mentions that the old district in the eastern part of the city is about to be demolished. At this, the man is floored by the information and starts to understand our young man's plan to cash in. Excited, he yells about moving there beforehand, but the MC tells him to watch the road. But he quickly calms down, saying that to do that, they'd need a ton of money and connections. With a confident air, our guy states he already has the money and that he'll make the necessary connections himself. He then turns to the director with a smile and asks if he doesn't want to make a little something for retirement. The director is sweating bullets as he thinks about the risky but very tempting proposal. Finally, he accepts the partnership, saying that from now on the MC is his nephew and can count on him for anything. As they drive, the director asks how our young man found out about the demolition and asks if it was the Lin family. The next day, we see our young man strolling calmly through the school hallways as usual. Inside the classroom, all the students are focused on studying for the upcoming exams. Suddenly, a hand covered in scrapes slams down hard on one of the desks, startling everyone in the room. A hooded figure calls out our hero's name, who turns around surprised, wondering who it is. The figure kneels in front of everyone and desperately begs for our protagonist's help. Then he pulls back his hood, revealing he's Yang, who cries and admits his mistakes, begging him to save his father. The boy clings to our hero's leg and says he's the only one who can intercede with the Lin family. At this, he bows to humiliate himself, and his hood flies off, revealing his completely bald head. The whole class is shocked by the scene, staring in amazement at the former bully's shiny bald head. The classmates start gossiping about what happened to him, while the bully cries in shame. Furious, the boy screams for no one to look at him as the shadows of his classmates mock his pain. Our hero then remembers what he did and asks with a smirk if he didn't like his handiwork. In a flashback, the rich kid blames some random barber for the ridiculous haircut that left him looking like that. The protagonist then tells him to get up, saying a man shouldn't kneel so easily. With a glimmer of hope, the young man looks up at him and asks if he's really going to help him out of this situation. But our hero shuts him down, saying his father was arrested according to the law, and there's nothing to be done. He continues, saying that instead of pulling strings, the kid should cooperate with the full investigation. With a cold look, our young man tells him to cut the drama because class is about to start. The former bully then collapses in tears, and our protagonist just watches him. Bully then gets to his feet and swears he'll make our hero lose everything he has in life. At this, the MC's friend jokes that Baldi is putting a curse on him to go bald too. That night, in front of an old building, one of Yang's lackeys asks if they really have to do this. The bald yells him to shut up and get things ready, because they're getting their revenge one way or another. Next, we see the henchman lighting the fuse of a bottle with a lighter, preparing an attack. One of the guys gets scared and tries to convince the leader to give up, since arson is a serious crime. But the leader grabs him and yells that there's nothing to be afraid of, because it'll all look like a simple accident. He then glares at the building and swears he's going to burn everything the MC has and drag him down to heck with him. One of the goons gets ready to throw the flaming bottle, welcoming him to oblivion. Suddenly, MC, perched in a tree, asks if Baldi, Yang, is over there composing poetry. Yang jumps and yells, asking who's there, but quickly recognizes our guy's voice. Our smiling hero says it must be fate bringing them together once again. The bald guy and his goons look up, totally startled to see our hero perched in a tree. With a smug grin and glowing red eyes, our hero asks what they think they're doing here. The bald guy orders his two goons to attack, but they hesitate, clearly terrified. Seeing their cowardice, Baldi gets furious and starts questioning their loyalty. This kicks off a pathetic argument between the goons over who has to go first to face the protagonist. This is pathetic little show, our hero sighs, already tired of the whole charade. Just then he leaps down from the tree. Our protagonist rushes toward one of the goons, who is completely frozen in fear. In one swift and brutal move, he lands a devastating blow right to the delinquent's face. The thug's face gets absolutely rocked by the punch, and he can barely process what just happened. With a cold gaze, our hero observes the result of his pinpoint attack. The goon then drops to the ground, completely knocked out, with zero chance of getting back up. As he falls, the bottle he was holding shatters on the ground, spilling the flaming liquid everywhere. The bald guy, Yang, screams at the other goon, calling him useless and ordering him to attack our hero too. Our hero, hands in his pockets, stares down the last goon with a seriously intimidating aura. The last goon makes up some lame excuse about leaving the stove on and bolts, leaving the bald guy behind. At this, the bully gets enraged, cussing out his lackey for being an ungrateful punk and abandoning him. Our hero then faces the bald guy with a terrifying aura and asks, "What are you looking at?" His eyes flash, showing he is definitely not messing around. Absolutely terrified, the aggressor starts breaking out in a cold sweat, trembling with fear. He then threatens our young hero with the flaming bottles, yelling at him not to get any closer. But before he can do anything, the protagonist dashes toward him in a blur. With an agile move, our hero grabs the bully's wrist, stopping the attack cold. The bald guy is shocked by his strength and speed, realizing he stands no chance. Desperate, he switches tactics and tries to appeal to him, saying they're classmates. Smile, our hero says he's going to ask for a favor, and tells him to be quiet. A single tear rolls down the bully's eye as he asks what the protagonist means. Without an ounce of pity, our hero viciously attacks him, telling him to shut his trap so he doesn't wake up his mom. Baldy starts crying and says he's going to call the cops, but our young man just complains about the noise. And speak of the devil, a police cruiser is seen approaching the scene of the commotion. The officer our hero saved before arrives and points, ordering the arrest of the suspicious bald guy. The bully is outraged, complaining that he's the victim and that the protagonist broke his leg. Furious, he calls the cop ungrateful, but the officer immediately tells him to zip it. With a smirk, the cop says the kid's dad clearly never taught him how a real officer handles things. He continues, saying that those who play with fire without understanding the situation are bound to get burned. The man then thanks our hero and offers to set him up with a project to help him unwind. He then says his goodbyes, mentioning they have important business to take care of the next day. The next day we see a very old and rundown part of the city with worn-out buildings. The director steps in a puddle as he walks through the pothole-ridden streets. He complains that the street is awful and doubts that demolishing the area will turn any profit. Our hero then says he's got another important tip for the director, who looks very curious. The young man explains that this area is set to become a satellite city, and the new industrial zone will make property values skyrocket. Hearing this, the director gets super excited and says he really bet on the right horse this time. But our hero thinks to himself that they're just using each other, and he plans on taking a huge piece of the pie for himself. They continue walking through the area, with the director asking our young man to slow down a bit. They find a bar with an urgent sale sign on the door and decide to check it out. Inside, our hero offers $150,000 for the elderly owner to sign the contract. The old man praises the bar, seeming a little sad to have to sell it. The director, curious, then asks the owner why he's getting rid of the place. The elderly man explains that his son racked up huge gambling debts and collectors show up every day. Hearing this, the director gets furious, calling the man's son a good for nothing. But our protagonist finds it all too strange, suspecting it's way too much of a coincidence. He then approaches the old man and asks who his son owes money to. The owner reveals that the creditor is a man known as Chen Jinhu, or Lodhu. The old man adds that Chen seems more interested in the bar itself than in the debt money. With a smirk, our hero understands exactly what's going on and already starts hatching a plan. He tells the director to hold off on the contract for now, because it's not time to relax just yet. With a confident look, he says that someone else, just like them, is waiting for an opportunity. Elsewhere, a powerful man lights up a cigar as he's addressed as Lord Hugh. Meanwhile, a woman in a purple dress, lying on the bed, tries to get his attention. She says there's no reason to look out at the street when there's a much better view right here in front of him. But the man ignores her, saying that a king must always keep a close eye on his domain. At this, the woman asks if that makes her a queen, and the guy just lets out an evil laugh. His name is Chen Jinhu, and he's the king of the night, having dominated the city for 20 years. His shady businesses, like casinos and loan sharking, are spread all over the city. They say that after midnight, he's the true ruler of this place. Back in the car, the director and our main character are driving down a dark, rainy street. The director then warns him that this Chen Jinhu is a rabid dog and extremely dangerous. He also mentions that the gangster has connections to the powerful Chen family from the capital. Upon hearing that name, our hero's eyes widen, as he knows that family all too well. This triggers a memory of the blonde man who betrayed him in his past life, and he flashes a hateful grin. The director is confused by his reaction and asks if he knows the family too. Our hero then says that Chen Jinhu is nothing more than a rabid dog raised by the Chen family. With his eyes glowing, he clenches his fist and says he'll deal with that dog himself. He then tells the director to proceed with the arrangements to buy the building, saying he'll take care of the money. Our hero thinks to himself that it's about time to collect the interest from the Chen family for everything they've done. At Chen Jinhu's headquarters, someone furiously shouts, "What did you say?" Jinhu is furious to learn that the bar in the old district was snatched right from under his nose. A henchman confirms the news, saying a lookout reported that the old man sold the building. In a fit of rage, Jinhu lands a solid punch right in his subordinate's face. He complains that they set the whole thing up, even drugging the old man, and yet someone else still managed to snag the place. Just then, the manager of the place arrives, and the henchman begs for his help because the boss is on a rampage. The manager, with a calm demeanor, takes out his phone and says they're already looking into it. He then shows a photo to his boss and says the other buyer appears to be a student. The photo on the phone shows the protagonist next to the director, who is identified as Dong Li. Jinhoo wonders how Dongli didn't go down with the Yang family, since he was always sucking up to them. Then he asks who the student is, and the manager says that person isn't on their radar. Jinhoo orders them to investigate the kid and bring him a full report in 3 days. He then tells the henchman to take some men to watch the bar and see what they're up to. With evil grin, he threatens the kid, saying that if anything goes wrong, he's going to be in a world of hurt. Meanwhile, our hero and his friend approach a bar on a rainy night. Suddenly, his friend grabs him by the arm with a scared look on his face and asks what's going on. The friend explains that Chen Jinhyu's turf is right around the corner, and he's heard that the guy is seriously bad news. Our hero is completely unfazed and asks what he's afraid of, telling him to just stick to the plan. He tells his friend to stay put and play on his phone to make the time go by faster. Confidently, he assures him that if there's any risk, he'll take it and nothing will happen to his buddy. But the friend is still worried, saying they're way too young to be in a place like this. Our MC cracks a joke about it being like a video game side quest, and his friend finally gives in, just begging him to be super careful. The protagonist just gives a little smirk. He says goodbye with a wave and tells his friend to stay hidden and wait for his signal. Looking at the bar's sign, he thinks he's about to pay a little visit to the So, called Emperor of the Underworld. With his hands in his pockets, he hopes this crime boss won't disappoint him. He remembers that during a police raid in his past life, he discovered a secret door in that very place. With that, he approaches the secret door and gives it a few knocks to get their attention. A man opens a small slot in the door and stares at him with a suspicious expression. The employee then says the bar is closed, but our hero already knew this was the password. So, the protagonist replies with the countersign, "Whether we do business or not depends on luck." The man on the other side is silent for a moment, surprised by the young man's response. He then opens the door and welcomes him, but asks if this is his first time here. Our hero then tosses a fat stack of cash into the air and says the guy ought to recognize as that. He asks what kind of entertainment they have, and the smiling employee agrees to show him. The man claps his hands enthusiastically to summon someone. With that, 3 young women in bunny outfits appear and invite our young hero inside. Inside, our hero and the girls hear a desperate man begging for help. The guy was pleading for a loan to keep from losing his house, but was mercilessly thrown out while being called a loser. Then the employee comments that the dude was down on his luck, but our young man seems lucky enough to win big today. With a serious look, he replies that gambling isn't about luck, leaving the girl confused by his answer. He questions her, saying she should know better since she works there, and then asks to buy 100,000 in chips. He grabs the chips, and the cashier wishes him good luck. As he walks, he thinks about luck and how everyone assumes it's the most important thing in gambling. But in reality, it's a psychological game, and just then, he arrives at a table where the dealer greets them. He then gives a slight smirk, thinking that besides psychology, the game also involves a few tricks. With the players in position, the dealer gets ready and announces he's about to deal the cards. Our MC then looks at his hand and sees an ace, a king, and a queen. Pretty decent starting hand. He starts observing his opponents and notices one of them is acting strangely. The guy's ear twitches and his face tenses up, so our protagonist realizes he has a very good hand. Then he looks at the long-haired guy but can't read his expression, only noticing his long fingernail. Quickly, our young man figures out that this nail has another purpose, like marking the cards to cheat. With a smile, the dealer says that everyone has seen their cards and asks if anyone wants to raise the bet. The chubby guy then calls and raises by 5,000, and the long-haired guy just calls. But the dealer turns to our hero. With a wild look in his eyes, our young man shoves all his chips in and announces an all-in, leaving everyone shocked. The chubby guy gets furious and wonders if the kid really has a hand that good to go all-in. The long-haired guy also gets tense and starts breaking into a cold sweat, suspecting it might all be just a bluff. He turns to the dealer and pretends to be a newbie, asking if it's better to bet more with a big hand. The employee awkwardly agrees, and the young man sighs in relief, leaving his opponents even more confused. Scared of his supposed strong hand, both players decide to fold, and the dealer announces the pot goes to the newbie. The dealer then asks him to show his cards, and everyone is stunned to see his hand was nothing special. The guys are livid, complaining that his hand was terrible and that they got tricked by a bluff. While the 2 losers whine, our hero is already bailing from the table, thinking he can't pull the same trick twice. The girl from before finds him and is impressed by his quick win, saying he's really lucky. She then tries to hit on him, asking to buy him a drink, but he turns her down, saying he's still in high school. The woman is shocked that he'd call her mom, and he takes the chance to ask if there are any faster-paced games around. With a mischievous look, she points to another game and says he'll find the thrill he's looking for over there. At the new table, a dice game is going wild, with everyone frantically shouting their bets. With that, the dealer shakes the dice cup, preparing the outcome of the round. But our hero focuses and listens to the sound of the dice, trying to guess the numbers that will come up. Suddenly, he notices something and realizes the last die landed with the number 6 facing down. The employee then asks if anyone wants to place any more bets before he reveals the result. Without hesitation, our young man throws all his chips on the table, shocking everyone with his move. Everything on big, and the dealer is stunned, as the kid has already won several rounds in a row. When the dice are revealed, the result is big, and everyone is floored by our hero's absurd luck. The employee is getting desperate and doesn't understand how it's possible since the kid doesn't seem to have X-ray vision. With a bored look, our young man asks to keep going, as he wants to win quickly so he can go home and sleep. The dealer gets nervous and wonders what he means by win quickly. He then thinks that if our guy keeps winning at this rate, he won't know how to explain it to his boss. Seen on a security camera, someone wonders who the heck this guy is who can't stop winning. In another room, the big boss is furious and snaps his cigar, complaining that the casino isn't a charity. Annoyed, he tells his goon to call a Japanese woman to handle the situation with our young man. The other players are gobsmacked by his luck, wondering if he's the god of gambling. Meanwhile, the dealer is in tears, and the guys comment that it's the first time they've ever seen the house lose so much. Just then, the doors to the hall burst open, catching everyone's attention. Out walk 2 massive security guards and a mysterious woman who strides in with an air of superiority. The sound of her heels echoes through the hall as she approaches the gaming table. All the men in the place are mesmerized by her presence and can't take their eyes off her. She then dismisses the dealer with a firm voice, and he obeys without question. With a cold, calculating gaze, the woman stares down our hero, who watches her with curiosity. The new dealer positions herself at the table, ready to take control of the game and challenge the kid. Our hero stares back at her, feeling like he's seen her somewhere before but can't remember where. An older man appears and announces that Miss Noyama Chizuru will be serving the gentleman personally. Upon hearing the name, our protagonist is in complete shock, as he remembers she's supposed to be in the Golden Triangle. Unfazed, Chizuru places her hand over the dice cup and prepares to start the match. With a confident smile, she invites him to place his bet, and the tension in the air becomes thick. The story then throws us into a flashback, taking us to Shibuya in the year 2019. In this spot, we see 2 guys having a drink while a woman comments on how noisy the place is. She then pours a drink for our hero and says that nights in Shibuya are chaotic and buzzing with life. Chizuru then mentions that you can't find this kind of vibrant energy just anywhere. Hearing this, our young hero just nods in agreement and quietly keeps on drinking. Suddenly, Chizuru tells him not to close his eyes, leaving him a bit confused by her request. She then touches his face, telling him his eyes are like a wolf's, and asks him to keep looking at her. Our hero shoots back, saying she's the one who looks like a dangerous cat. Chizuru says a cat isn't interested in secrets, it just wants to keep him company for the night. He remembers how she had a lot to drink and said that to truly hear the dice, you have to feel their breath. The woman kept teaching him, showing him how to sense the subtle language of his opponent's muscles. He recalls it felt like sensing her heartbeat as he held her in his arms. Back in the present, our hero gets ready to use her own teachings against his master. With a swift, expert move, Chizuru shakes the dice cup with some serious force. The main character then closes his eyes, focusing to feel every single movement of the dice. He then snaps his eyes open, completely locked in on the play. Our hero analyzes every little detail about his opponent, like the tension in her neck. Chizuru then glares at him with a serious look and tells him to make his bet. The confident smirk on his face, our hero prepares to make his move. He then bets everything on a set of 3 threes, leaving everyone in total shock. Chizuru is completely floored by his bet, saying that hitting that is impossible. With an intimidating stare, our young guy tells her to open the cup and reveal the result. Hesitant and nervous, the woman places her hand on the cup, getting ready to lift it. When she finally lifts the cup, the result is 3 dice, all showing the number 3. The other players stare at the dice in disbelief, shocked by the new guy's insane luck. The manager starts to panic as he realizes the payout is going to be 50 million. The other bettors cheer, calling him the god of gamblers, as he stares her down. Chizuru then bows as a sign of respect and thanks the young hero for the game. All of a sudden, a furious man storms in, yelling about who's causing all the trouble. The manager quickly runs over to the big boss and says he saw who was responsible. The manager tells the boss that the student causing the commotion is the same one who bought the bar, leaving the man stunned. In a fit of rage, the man screams that the kid bought his bar and won his money, yelling about how unfair it all is. He then orders his men to grab their weapons and threatens to take care of our young guy's entire family line. Meanwhile, an employee asks our hero if he wants to cash in all his chips. He agrees and hurries the employee along while calling his friend, telling him it's his turn to act. Just then, the big boss and his goons show up, asking if he really thinks he can just walk away. With his sword in hand, the man shouts that he's going to end the protagonist. But suddenly, the lights go out and everyone is left confused, wondering what just happened. A moment later, the power comes back on, and the goons let out a sigh of relief. One of the men then asks the manager where the big boss is, and the manager looks worried. They then find the boss on the floor, out cold, and one of the goons screams his name. Outside, our hero is holding 2 briefcases full of cash, complaining that his hand hurts from all the punching. Just as he's about to leave, a woman in a bunny outfit stops him and asks what he's looking for. The MC turns around and sees the woman with a few goons blocking his path. The woman then gives him a threatening look and asks if he's looking for an early checkout. Our hero tells the Clady to get out of the way, but the nickname just makes her furious. She orders her goons to grab him and get the casino's money back. One of the goons threatens him, telling him to hand over the cash if he doesn't want to get hurt. The protagonist then sighs that the one thing he didn't plan for was ticking off a woman, but she says he didn't tick her off, he ticked off the big boss. He then kicks a piece on the floor and mocks her, saying she's a bunny sacrificing herself for a tiger. Our young guy cracks his knuckles and says it doesn't matter, getting ready for a fight. With a fiery aura around him, he says there are just a few more goons to take down. Then the MC challenges them to come at him all at once to save some time. One of the goons gets ticked off and mutters something about our hero's audacity. The men then charge at him, yelling that he'll have to get through them first. The first goon lunges forward, shouting for the protagonist to go to heck. But our hero easily blocks the man's attack, grabbing his baton. With a cold look in his eyes, he readies his fist for a devastating counterattack. He then lands a powerful punch that sends the goon flying back with incredible force. The other goons are stunned to see their buddy on the ground, not moving. The protagonist then turns to the 2 remaining goons with a defiant look. He asks in a mocking tone if they still want to come at him one at a time. The 2 men look at him with fear and hesitation, unsure of what to do. They then decide to attack together, rushing toward our young hero. With a satisfied smirk, he says that now things are getting interesting. Our hero then leaps into the air, preparing for a devastating aerial attack. With a double kick, he hits both goons at the same time with perfect precision. Smoothly as the men fall to the ground, completely defeated. The woman in the bunny outfit is shocked to see a kid take down her men so easily. Our young man then appears right in front of her with a smile and says she's next on the list. The woman screams in fear and takes off running as fast as she can, which surprises him. His friend shows up and asks if he's taken care of everything, and our hero asks where he's been. The friend explains that he found the generator and cut the power to the whole street. He asks if that wasn't awesome and suggests they should become criminals. As they walk away, the friend asks what he thought of the idea, but the protagonist just stays silent. The bunny woman is out of breath, wondering why the power for the entire street went out. Suddenly, the manager shows up, and the woman is relieved to see him arrive with backup. Desperate, she asks the manager for help, saying she needs reinforcements to handle the situation. The manager then raises his hand in the air, getting the bunny woman's attention. He then slaps her across the face and accuses her of letting the kid escape on purpose. The man says he saw everything on the cameras and that she was way too close to our hero. With tears in her eyes, she denies everything, saying she's completely loyal to their boss. But the manager doesn't care and says someone has to take the fall, then tells his men to question her. The woman begs the manager not to do it, but he ignores her pleas. The scene then cuts to the outside of the building, showing that the chaotic night has finally come to an end. The next day, we see the school, where the teacher is telling the class to open their books to page 17. Our hero is studying while his friend is fast asleep at the desk next to him. The protagonist analyzes a map, thinking that the casino boss will be too busy to deal with him now. He figures that once the news gets out, prices will skyrocket, and he needs to get out before things get messy. He plans to use the cash to open a security firm and recruit people to go against the Chen family. Suddenly, the teacher calls on him to answer a question, but he was so distracted he just spouts some nonsense. The teacher gets furious, calls him a lost cause, and complains that he never pays attention in class. Our hero tries to defend himself, saying he heard the word bananas, but the teacher cuts him off. With that, the man says that finals are coming up and forces him to go to after-school tutoring. The guy complains, pointing at his sleeping friend and saying he's even talking in his sleep. The teacher then challenges him to listen to what his classmate is saying while asleep. Shocked, he hears the correct answer and finds out his friend is the 4th best student in their grade. The students are leaving school as the afternoon sun lights up the hallways. Arriving late to the tutoring session, our hero finds a girl already waiting in the classroom. The young man sighs, tired, and complains that they even take attendance at tutoring. Then, a female voice says that good habits lead to a good start, making him curious. He recognizes the voice, and when he looks at the girl, he's startled and asks what she's doing there. The purple-haired girl is sitting at the desk and, with a smile, asks why she couldn't be. He says it's quite a coincidence, but she reveals that she's actually going to be the class tutor. Our hero is confused and says they're both students, questioning her authority to do that. The girl replies that it's because she's number one in their class, and he wonders what kind of monsters these people are. She then reveals she got the courage to ask to be the tutor after she found out he'd be there. The young woman gets closer and explains that she specifically asked the principal to be the tutor for this group. With a serious look, she tells him he'd better work really hard in these tutoring sessions. Suddenly, the girl grabs his tie forcefully, catching him completely off guard. The girl then pulls him close and confesses that she only came to the tutoring session because of him. She then yanks him even closer, leaving the guy completely freaked out by her actions. The girl whispers in his ear that he should listen to his teacher, and he complains about how close she is. She then notices his ears are bright red, and he wonders what in the world she's trying to do. The young woman keeps teasing him, saying his face is red too, and that he's not so serious after all. The guy asks what they're doing and says they should be studying, but she doesn't let go. She then turns the situation into a physics problem, asking what the value of the tensile force is. The young man panics and says he can't start with physics, suggesting they begin with math instead. The girl agrees and lets him go, saying they'll start with functions, and he thinks to himself that she's a really weird girl. The girl's hand holds a piece of chalk as she starts to write the lesson on the blackboard. With the chalk in hand, the young teacher turns to him with a determined look, ready to start the class. Her purple eyes shine with a mix of focus and a slight blush on her cheeks. She then writes a function problem on the board and asks her classmate to solve for the domain. The guy raises his hand, confused, and asks what a domain is, which irritates the girl. He then thinks to himself that he did study this, but it was in his past life. The girl can't believe what she's hearing and walks toward his desk with a stunned expression. She gets close and says she'll explain it all step by step, but he asks her not to stand so close. The young woman ignores his request and offers him a hairpin to hold back his bangs. He freaks out and refuses the help, asking if they can just get on with the lesson. The protagonist is completely indignant at the girl's audacity and gives her a furious look. He thinks about how he could have faced so much danger and still get this flustered around a girl. As the afternoon ends, the tutoring session finally wraps up in the empty school. While he's packing his bag, the tutor reminds him to review the day's material. With a smirk, she threatens to give him some special one-on-one guidance if he doesn't study, and he yells at her to back off. Leaving the school, the girl complains about how hot the day was as the sun sets on the horizon. Walking beside him, the young woman calls his name to ask an important question. She then asks if he hates her, and he quickly denies it, surprised by the question. With a blush on her face, she presses on, wanting to know if there's something more than just not hating her. In that moment, the girl confesses directly, telling him that she really likes him. The protagonist is left speechless, and she offers to repeat her confession without hesitation. The young woman reaffirms her feelings, telling him she's liked him ever since the day he saved her. He's still in shock, processing the unexpected declaration from his classmate. With a shy look, she asks if her forwardness seems childish to him. She then turns to him expectantly and asks about the young man's feelings. The girl asks him straight up if the protagonist has any feelings for her too. The guy is visibly shaken, not knowing how to answer her question. With a pained expression, he closes his eyes and apologizes to the girl. He explains that they're on different paths, and he doesn't want to drag her into his problems. As he walks away, the young woman shouts, offering to help him study, and runs after him. In a luxurious house all lit up at night, an important conversation is about to take place. A hand holds a wine glass as someone addresses Uncle Hugh in a serious tone. We see the casino boss kneeling, apologizing to young Master Chen, who is scolding him. The man tries to justify himself, saying the kid was something else and that he broke his arms and legs. But the young master cuts him off, saying he only cares about results, not the process. He explains that those buildings are crucial for storing merchandise, and that his father values them greatly. Desperate, the man promises to find a way to get them back and begs for one more chance. The young master agrees to give him a chance, but warns him that he needs to remember something. With a sinister smile, he pours the wine from the glass in a threatening gesture. The glass shatters on the floor, sending wine and shards flying everywhere. The young master then warns him that next time, it'll be his head that ends up like that. With disdain, he dismisses the man, and the grateful goon quickly makes his exit. Alone, the young master picks up another wine glass and observes the drink with a thoughtful expression. He then fills the glass with red wine while whispering our protagonist's name. Sitting in an armchair, he reflects on the unknown kid who dared to challenge the Chen family.